Mo Jong De De Chenmo Zhe Jong Bo Yang Do Bo Zu Bie Shi Bo Dong Xiu Su Den Bo De Wo Shi Bo Ju Den Jiu Ju Bo De Yue Kong Long Ji Wo Lao Dong Men Lao Dong Men Nong Ji Zheng Bo Song Ji Jiu Den Bie Jiao Wo Xiao Jiao Du Bo Lo Xiao Zi Qiu Du Jiu Su Qie Wu Gong Zi Gong Nian Zu Jiu Dong Zi Sa Jian Den Ang Gong Bo Nian Bo 阿年决定的那就结束，的这个我就能这样子，那到公就都如中，一些叫做是这什么，这不决定送能能愿望，公布去年就了相子。全球电波正面到月球，深度到我就了相子。热热今朝虽不送去，表面却见就了相子。我不多久接电波，东西全变电波。是那原点叫做心，地界写了相子。大别这个就给别给送的着。基督的当中就把心着就那相子。这年这月老样的老婆到老找多。心月大波有点点，做着给点老小。我这样没小心，给我别说错过心。让给谁年用手的，的年上街听过。当我这的满面当，就满生活全部。马浪路多真大步，都些去哪的多。是那的月东西在包夜，过不到年就这着的。我到那当西边老出，西边做人着我着我哟。
Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain, with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of the lineage trained who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Sharadvati Putra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight, and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra. The mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teyata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvati Putra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
多觉清波地谢多觉强，着觉的罗波多那罗波，边觉着别波多阿地想，鸟类西罗居罗娑婆地，上波多灭一念能住的。昨天对月的当着边边，在当各层六年四年末，了解识别觉了所问的，然愿月面兄弟路中老王这波这边可就见，上界观众婆婆要在错，放莫的月觉了所问的。记住道别穷啊的上，高档的别面部中的结，念就那些过去算了算，高档了么那了说我的，刚见新的世界做个梦，梦到这边我手接走的。当天边道不开中间，要是举不起了说我的，要做跟的老妈多坚强，刚了刚的些年出中的，就当天幕不住自在边，真见老妈能了说我的。让将所着跟那大圆面，给上淘宝这边用安全，这边这边打开这把眼，是在新年那说完的，结果更多样的那么多。这面确诊别让我学姐，少浪着有点肉多呢，多觉强给我娘多说上街就当做就那了，想去我多多年就做去，好给去去就别做那件，到了平时上街如果。说啥的，就当做这就那那，想就不多的那就做，那也就说这边做那件，到了平时上街如果就上街，就当做这就那那，想就不多的那就做，那也就去这边做那件。罗罗偏是上见如有。哎呀，哎呀，当个中，那查检呢？人家查到查检这就行，到这得查检查着过了，到三八的查检查着交完呢，你三八了，你把的工资查着了，三八的工资这那公平网也看个，也就个人咱那也就着一个，然后的，然后像是这呢，你公布的需求人着一样，开始这有了。给你们拍呢？
讲了我有什么想法都有，东西也得写的像样的，的蛮能写的像啊。
好嘞。
So here, as usual, we will begin with how to shape our motivations. As we talked all the time during our teachings that this is a usual how to shape our motivations. Now, how do we make this usual, shaping our motivations, usual with ourselves? So therefore, it requires a practice of familiarity, how one can familiarize oneself with shaping our motivations. So if one is able to familiarize shaping our motivations usually, then it will become habituated, with us. The shaping our motivations will become habituated with us. Will then enables us to develop our positive thoughts. It will increase our positive thoughts. So therefore, when talking about developing one's motivations and shaping one's motivations, we're always talking about how well familiarize yourself with shaping your motivations. So therefore, at any time, you should always try your best to shape one's motivations or to develop one's positive state of mind.
당가 저기 가디에는 최제세데 망쳐들 소소로 좋아데 마도아이나 당가 저기 나이 이상한데 좋아 추체다네 양양서 전바되는 마도 로아 인자는 단단가서 거서 봐봐 가르쳐 거세데 자제 전동인데 창조에 내가 로아 인자 단단하게 가르쳐 거래서야지 가르쳐 거서는 게 대받침이 최제를 친해져 거래서 아니 살짝 가르쳐 거래서 아니 뭐랑 덤바투병 뭐 라오서 비랑 레지가 나만나 거대 이게 된다라 아니 게 아니 대받침이 친해져 거래서 레지 소소소소 좋아하고 내저도나 아니 선바티 이제서 주도해진 거로.
So here now, we're gathered here, spending a couple of hours receiving the teachings of the Dharma or the practicing Dharma. So when speaking about practicing Dharma, there are plenty of obstacles, in other words, obstacles for us because we are very much remaining under the influence of mental wandering, what we call agitation, so mental wanderings and so forth. This really becomes the primary obstacles for continual of one's Dharma practice. So therefore, it is very important for us to really remember again and again, being mindful of what kind of practice that you are doing, and remember yourself, the practice, what kind of practice that is to be done during such and such time. So therefore, one should remind oneself, how do I practice? What really calls, what is the real practice that really bring about change in my thoughts and emotions? So therefore, for this, by remembering oneself, by remaining oneself, reminding oneself with such thoughts, then what kind of practice that we are actually doing at this point is we're engaging in the practice of what we call Mahayana Dhamma. And where we are doing it, what kind of place that we are actually engaging in the practice. Imagine that you're being in a place, in the presence of Buddha, surrounded by all those great lineage masters of the Lam Rim, and from in their presence, you're receiving these teachings of the Mahayana Dhamma.
당가 저기에는 가디에는 랑게 된데라 템바투병 뭐 라지가 나만나지 거등에 비바체야 되는 거네 대응내래 되다 매병원기래다 여래서는 좋아지러 ngane chone chena ngaso yere sen ta che tu ri karesana pena ngando wo jlang ga man do du ye na ni nge me be ne be so na nge chi mi chi me be nge tel chi ta ro de na ye shu ji ngado re ji be la ma de temba de mo ji la re ji be la ma na ji chen ba le to ba me wa yin za ne ni gang lo me ba shi ge de ne de la zi ge de ko nge ta ji pe ja ba ji ba chi chang de nga shu lo la ma do ke dang son nge nga ke dang ge de tai go.
So when we are visualizing Buddha surrounded by all those lineage gurus, is it just visualizing? Is it just a visualization, or it just really exists as you visualized? If you were to ask such questions, whether this is real, the whatever the mirror field that you have visualized, is that real or something that is just your imaginations? So if you very think deeply and carefully, you could actually claim this is as a real. Not just visualize, not just my imagination, but the real Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the lineage gurus surrounding that Buddha Shakyamuni as you visualized. For instance, when I'm walking outside, and if someone called my name from distance, the far distance, as soon as I hear my name, and I will just turn around and look at that person, whoever is calling. At least I will just look towards the direction from where the sound is coming from. Similarly, if we were to, from the depth of your heart, if you supplicate to those great beings, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and those lineage gurus of the Lam Rim Chenmos, their wisdom or their wisdom has no obstacles. It is free from obscurations. So therefore, at the moment you started supplicating and recursing those gurus, they will look at you.
아니 니지체 외바지 임바데 양 진생 로에도 인타네 랑다 랑냐기 신제도달라 저와 니지 첨부이마 지 많이 보기 저와로 제 당내 제도에 지체 아니 야 이제 저들에 사태니라 지 자체자 레데 제통이 지인하네 아니 맞아 가만 니선지 미바치다.
So it is, how we actually visualize the object of refuge before oneself in the space, who are the objects to whom we take refuge, and cultivate a genuine faith towards those, refuge, object of refuge. And at the same time, you also generate a compassion towards all sentient beings, the sentient beings who are in a similar situation as oneself. This too, again, your extension of your compassion towards sentient beings is not something that is, theory. But if you really think carefully, it is a worthwhile to cultivate compassion towards all other sentient beings. If you're able to think very carefully, you're able to, gain insight into the nature of the suffering of all other sentient beings. Your extension of your compassion will not become just theory. It will become a practical. So therefore, cultivating faith towards one's, the great beings, and cultivating compassion towards other sentient beings as who are in a similar situation as oneself. And with these combinations, let's take a couple of minutes to meditate.
다 된적이 경로 치바지면은 건스바시 주 아니 다 사선 주주메 상주 런저린 바스 안 대체에 제가 거스 비바인다네 지 가인존 다 되면 아니 준지 선은 정각결로 좋아오세요. 근데 좋아다 되면 봐네. 가서 다 주세 기타 세계 지제는 전혀 제가 거스 보인잖아요. 가가가요 하는지.
So now, with these motivations, the teachings that you are receiving, the particular teaching that you are receiving today, is the lamp of 3 volts of the path to enlightenment. Lamp for 3 volts, the path to enlightenment. And this is the teaching, the subject matter of the teaching that you are receiving. And you should, while receiving, you should listen to the teaching with delightful manner.
대체. 다 들으겠는데 이제 맞아 가서 사정 되잖아요. 중국 정부 대비신 제법이 채와네. 치티 발라샤네. 아니 게 뒤질러도 저런 뭐지 사지 장동이 치. 장동이 팀만 비 과다这个来吧. 중국 정부 대비신 제법이 채와. 아니 당하를 교바 제비시 쳐지 봐. 아니 저원이 되는 미쳐라 니시자다 샤와. 당방은 저 라마 때这人吧.
So here, as usual, I will begin with these teachings while going through the reading of outlines. As Rinpoche, Lama Tsongkhapa, the way he actually lay out those templates or outlines particularly, it's a very comprehensive, it really gives you a succinct, overall understanding of the subject matter of the teaching that he will be giving. So therefore, we'll just begin with the first outline, the greatness of the teachings given in order to show the teachings has a noble source. Second, showing the greatness of the teachings in order to engender respect for the teaching. And third, the greatness of enabling one to know that all of the teachings are free of contradictions, and the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught the actual instructions.
대중 가서 동번이라 싫어 생기는 가서 별거 싫어 세대 전세대 전세에서 유리 전세 저때도 토네 대대 데려와서 라유리 영업이 내지도는 따지 제윤이 주명이 저 걸어 세미도 댄스.
So it is always, actually, if you look at this, the outlines, those outlines, not only just reading the, the sentence of the line itself, but rather this sentence actually, gives you the logical support of how the teachings, how this, logical supports to show that the teachings has a noble source, and logical supports to show that the teachings will engender respect for the teachings and so forth.
담방은 저놈아 저때 자유사제 집어들 자유사제 아니 란지 자와 신이 된비 최다와네 된로 제다생이는 많이 아니 되니지 송샤를 얘는 안 그러시.
This will then be followed by the two other important outlines are the how to rely on the teacher, the root of spiritual path, and how the students train their mind after having relied on the teacher.
다 연주 뒤 제기 사제 때 될래내가 저걸 다 영업 쳐든 뒤 때는 힘벌림비시 그와 힘벌제 단례비 쓰세요디 아니 뒤 때는 힘벌림비 된다라 근데 제쇼서나 아니 규만저지 땅 아니 규만 땅에 제라 아니 두스 저거래다 송유디 제차고 쉬어져라 가 저는 마서 지 랑가네 지소고야나 베데 소지 되는 대용해져.
So this is Lama Tsongkhapa actually laid out all those outlines, which is very comprehensive and very succinct form of how one can really, be on the path, on the unmistaken path. Because once you have how the students train their mind after having relied on teacher, then how the students should encourage him or herself to really make the life of leisure and fortune meaningful and purposeful.
대체 대이 때는 님보 렘비 쉽게 세디 양 진짜 코로 진짜 저된지 전에 손자 다음에 초로 만도 대수제대 라타 이슈지 땅에서는 대송 맞수 되는 얘기 짜지 말해야지 뭐처럼 이 때는 제바체네 저동 통행지마도 대파 이제선 중에는 시다여 말의 생에게 라니를 칼로는 안에 제나 맞잖아 뒤께서 생일을 못 쉬어 찾아라.
So here, if you really look at those outlines, as I spoke earlier, all those outlines have a valid supports, the valid supports of reasonings. It is not something that a religious matter, nor it is just a theory, but it is a valid support. Especially if you look at how, why it is important for us to really to make our, the leisure and fortune, the rebirth of leisure and fortune meaningful and purposeful. For what purpose? Why the Dhamma Sangha encourages us to really to make this meaningful.
님볼린 제단린 비출을 사진이지 랑지 나자 녀바 제스다 님볼린 뭐지 다본린지 본문지서 다 님볼린 정원들로 송 주변 중요한 대모인 랑지를 만나서는지 주변 대모인 랑지를 만나서는지 주변 챔피언 랑지를 만나서는지 다 본문지서 다 주변 챔피언 랑지를 만나서는지라 자이사지 송이 대전랑 주변과 담바 센제 코나된 바 센테제다 지비치 센제는 쇼발로 로치제 다 동반인 제사 다 센제는 쇼발로 로비치라 소이 센제는 쇼발로 로고비 전세 로바를 로비 산제 민주바 템바 는 로발로 로비를 많이 시바지 다 로발로 로비를 많이 시바달라니 자이사지니 로바절로 로치다 비제레 마 쇼바절로 레티바치 모절로 로치다 치바도 로제 테발로 로치 다 동버지 로바절로 로치달라 아니 자이사지 로바절로 로치달라 자이사지니 상송르 상세제 로발로 로고비 전세 상세제 로발로 논데 장네 저세제 담바존 존에 달로비 취제 다 동문이 다 존에 달로비 취달라 사제 송레 아니 칸라로비지 델로바는디지 델로비지 바지 다 동문이 제사 다 델로비 림바달라니 쇼바절로 제당 치바도 파신 대반이라 파시 타만이라 지지 다 동bol라 자이사제 니리 랑기 산지 주민 바시바 파를 시바다 젠지 주민 바시바 뉴고절로 지지 다 동bol라 사진 뿌리 신비 바절로 주준 저 가사 예바 주준 저바 상 전지 상라오지 다 되는 거 뭔가 준비 파신을 지텔라지 다 준비 파신을 지텔라 자이사제 손 제레 준비고 진바 대다 진비고 대체발을 주게 더 아니 진비로도 여와 더다게 된디고 아지 다소 자이사제 봐 아니 진비 아니 저도 여와 생각들 아니 진비 파신을 진바랑 원께 제시와이나 아니 아직 말에 취지진 봐 민지베 저지진 봐 상세기진 봐 송전나 아니 가서 거서 봐봐 네 상세기진 봐 당시 가도 되는데
So we are on the particular chapter of the division of generosities. When speaking about division of generosity, there are of three. Chögyjimba, the generosity of Dharma, generosity of giving protection from fear, and generosity of material gift. So at that particular moment, we are under the third chapter of the practice of generosity with regard to material gift.
다저도 상세기진 받던 동 코로나스 사지 뭐도 때때 저신달라는 초로르지리 다 저면도 당가서 상세기진 받던 온데 다 진바동 시기유 니진바동 그 가당 거래 산나 간데던 당 거래 아니 조아 가래래 아니 간에 동 가래래 세대 아니 간에 동이 뭐보 가래래 생에 자이사지 집어들래.
So here now when speaking about engaging in practice of the material gift, in other words, the generosity, the practice of generosity with regard to material gift, that's primary has the four steps. motivations, actual engagement of the practice of generosity, actual practice of generosity, and the gift that is to be given, and to whom you are giving. So those are the 4 steps which need to be followed. And when we are on the particular, we are discussing on the chapter where it talks about to whom you give and how to give.
다 가생가 좀 뭐 동안에 다想去什么东西我不大需我다 알려需我다我当然了一般当然看这些当过的事呢我们开始的很多点把那个写在落彩的写了嘛想去什么都是一般当然的吃的普你搞了偏见呢想去什么一般当过的写么个节然后吃了偏多面的普了偏多一个节呢然后想去什么一般当过的也是年节다 주부님 가는 게 제나 집 땅거 말에 양 채라 편라 풀로 넣는 게 제나 아니 셔주스 집 땅거 말에 세대 아니 도 때문에 지레도
So here we have gone through the reading of the text, the brief presentation of the things which are and which not to be given during last time. So here let's once again summarize these teachings. This particular, paragraph here is now, if you look at how the bodhisattvas actually engage in the practice of generosity, if by means of their practice of generosity, if the bodhisattvas' practice of generosity can, become a beneficial for long term, then certainly the bodhisattvas will engage in such practice and engage in practice of giving and so on. And so then again here, if by means of the practice of generosity, if it may not actually benefit, immediately, but it becomes a beneficial for long term, then again Bodhisattva will engage in this practice of generosity. And then also, if the practice of giving or generosity becomes a beneficial at the moment, but it becomes harmful for the long term, then Bodhisattva was not engaged in such practice.
당하는 지그래 네 간대질에 좀 당거 말에 세 아니 telling ni bala ni ngo bo ton na ge ngo bo me ton da shi ngo bo me ton je ba se ba wo so ton bo ne son do.
So then here now the detailed explanation of things which are not to be given. So the detailed explanation of the things which are not to be given has two sections.
다 나게 거 버세디 다 소소기 매 조보다 조배 양라다 뜻이 개체래도 시 거 버세디 다 노노셔도 스래도.
So here now the things when speaking about what is to be given, inner things and then outer things, there are two kinds. So what is meant by inner things referring to one's physical part of one's physical parts, in other words, the limbs and so forth are said to be the inner. And then outer, chi dang nangi didan de
nangi de rangi yala dang so dang kanje rangi lul dang yala resha. Ani il se de non longe de.
So then the outer things were referring to the material gift, and the inner things are inner things that refers to one's part of one's body, limbs, and even one's life and so forth.
다 동보 nangi ngobo 마동 안에 사. nangi ngobo 마동이 치셰나 델레 도바나 당자 셰베 통마 마동이 치 셰바 샤오 델라 송레 송. So
detailed explanation about inner, which are the inner things which are which are and are not to be given, and detailed explanation about outer things which are and are not given. So detailed explanation about inner things which are and are not to be given. Once you understand how to give the inner things, you will know the opposite of that you should give. Therefore, I will first explain how not to give. This has 3 parts.
Dijugone Tomaruan city, that Dijugone Tomaruan is that Rangi Yala, the Lude, the Sujima, Dula Mabu, the Segura, Manduna Tomarua, Carres and Asa, Dijugone Tomaruan name. Shanseje le Tombone answer, Lula Sopa Sengela, Samba Tabane, Tom Mejan, Chala Sopa, who Gashi Yinjun, Minji, Hinji, Samba, Majeje Bottle, Hoya Town, Meja de Lodile.
So this has 3 parts: inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time, then the viewpoint of purpose, the viewpoint of the one who asks for something. So inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time, which is right from the start, the bodhisattvas give away to all living beings their bodies, etc., with complete sincerity. Nevertheless, though you may ask, do not give away the flesh of your body and so forth until you have developed an attitude of great compassion. Then you will not despair that hardship of being asked for such things. The compendium of training says.
There are Mazopena, when a Shanchu sing Damba, Laba, the Juba Shanchu sing Damba Lansana, and the Ludon should get so the Sinja Rangi in the
So here, once you have taken a vows of the engaging bodhisattvas, the practice of engaging bodhicitta, and we actually committed ourselves to give away everything, not only just your belongings, but including one's own life and so forth. You know, which means your body, your resources, your wealth and everything. The virtues that you have, the merit that you have accumulated for 3 times and so forth, are all actually dedicated towards all other sentient beings.
Pizza, Samba Tamba, and Hwasawa Yena, Zarani, Hinji Chimbodan, Kanji, Lude Yonso Zoba, Tanshana, and Sosogi Sela, Senjadan, J. Kutungi Segura. Hinji Chimbo Yonso Mazo Jabato, and Hongayuna, and Tenchu and the Lude Tansha also at it.
So therefore it says, although that you may have made such commitments, if you are aware that you have not actually developed an attitude of great compassion, then you should not consider yourself giving all this, including one's limbs and part of one's bodies and so forth.
Kande to chunga le jiwa du rinpo zomba meba yonsi ma meba na shaka yule na zomba te pe na rangi sha jimba la soba tabo sondu.
So the compendium of training says, what is the joyous perseverance on the conduct of which you become dispirited? It is when one who has little strength undertakes activity that is weighty or extends over a long period of time, or when those lacking fully matured belief undertake difficult tasks, like, for example, giving out their own flesh and so forth. So therefore, it says, what is joyous perseverance on the account of which you have become dispirited? Which means that without having this joyous perseverance, then if we try to engage in such very, engage in practice of giving, of inflicting one's, causing a harm, inflicting a harm upon one's own body, such as giving one's limb of one's body and so forth, is not really advisable.
그래서 소소게 자차게 제기 뒤도 체데 마음 비거텔라 니 린신 장바 때네 마도 아니 카투 아니 베데 가서 샤동을 류동와서 제샤와이나 니 준지 조안조를 준지게 또 초고 말해서 해야 돼.
So this is like, if you have not actually fully developed a joyous perseverance, and then such practice is not advised. Such practice is not advised for someone who is not actually being on the stage where you can actually give away your flesh and your part of your bodies and so forth.
This channel is Jin Simuche, when do my by Yonsa Shabala Doba said, Jetana sent the dollar Shanchu, Samba, Joe and Jove, Shanchu just sent a Sabe Chisa is Shero, Jebu Chamber Seban, and Jebu Chamber Chisuba Joro, so to Teretanda.
So here now what it says is now, though this beginning bodhisattvas have given away their own body to all beings, still they turn away from untimely use of it. Untimely use of it. Otherwise, they would despair about these beings who ask for flesh, and thereby squander huge masses of good result due to wasting the seeds of their spirit of enlightenment.
된다 집에지 대이 싫어서 파파 나큐 저전 돌에 이 많이 번 되번에 뒤질래서 셔서宣주래 셔당宣주래장 니지 삼바마다 배 류네 땅 맞아대 제는 대단 현다도 된체 주비 주당을 셔서 송.
So then here it says, therefore the question of Sky Treasure Sutra says, untimely wishes are demonic activities, what it says. And engaging in the bodhisattva state also says, do not give away your body while your compassionate attitude is impure. In any case, give it away to achieve a great purpose in this and future lives.
되지. 또宣주 된다 첨부 되래.宣주기. 배나 니지 첨부다 니지 첨비 삼바 용수 줘봤는데 다 집이 냥내게 다 마신 줄 봐도 아니 주보 가서 주 류당을 써봐 쟤는 지금 말이 메티가 가래에서나 대다 대한 첨부 줘야라. 아니 대디 그 많이 발라 당샤는 대 주고 말이 뒤에 거스 법을 해서나 대 첨부 주네 인요도 있는 거 봐도 대 첨부 줘야지 줄을 로그리 줄을 당초를 해서.
So here it says, in case that's giving away to achieve a great purpose in the future lives. What it says is now, without develop the attitude of great compassion, without development of attitude of great compassion, it is inappropriate for one to actually give away one's part of bodies and so on and so forth, something that is harmful to one's own body and so forth. This cannot be done. So if one is able to, if one has then reached, because what it says now, because one need to understand the level of your practice of generosity, whether you are able to give away everything or not. Otherwise, if without being on the certain level where you are unable to engage in this practice, but you keep on doing it, it will not become beneficial for oneself. And it will become an obstacle, in fact, for achieving great purpose in one's future lives. So therefore, in order to achieve a great purpose in one's future life, one should have a proper understanding of the level of your practice of generosity. So it is always, when we engage in such practices, always look at the appropriateness of time and the level of your practice, where it is appropriate and where you are delightfully able to carry out such practice or not. Because sometimes what happens to us is, due to the power of our, the contrived renunciations, we may engage in some kind of practice, something that is not capable for oneself, and one always try to prove oneself as something that you can actually carry out such practice. But this will be proved to be harmful to one's practice than beneficial. So then here the inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of purpose. The inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of purpose, do not give away your body for some traveling purpose, engaging in the bodhisattva states. For something traveling to you, traveling, do not harm your body, and which is for practicing the sublime teachings. In this way, you will quickly fulfill the aim of living beings. So here now, it is always look at the purposes. What purpose are you actually engaging in such practice? For instance, this life of human being, the body that we have as a human form, which is endowed with 6 constituents, who are actually born from a mother's womb, and which composed by 6 constituents, has only potential to gain a state of enlightenment within this brief lifetime. Not other beings can do that. Only the beings who are constituted, who are actually composed with this 6, or whose body is composed with this 6 constituents, can only do that. Now, we have such a potential of gaining the state of enlightenment within one's brief lifetime. If we give away part of one's body and limbs, and even sacrifice one's life and so forth, then we are not actually using our body and our life and so forth for the greater purpose. You're actually losing the greater purpose.
Teta Shana, New Dongobazo Sanje and Jorosedo. Catulezona, and Mejate, Tende Shawa in New Dongobazo Sanje Joseti, sit and Jochato Mudo. Demnajaje, then Chinsi Cheto, any Luton, Mejawa, then Chembo Drubi, Druba Teta Shana, and New Dongobazo Sanje and Osondo.
So that it says, for something traveling, do not harm your body, it says, which is for practicing the sublime teachings. In this way, you will quickly fulfill the aim of aim of living beings. So therefore, it says one should not, sacrifice one's, body and so forth for the little purpose, but rather one should know that how to utilize one's body and so forth for the greater purpose. In other words, state of enlightenment.
这选举阶段的最开始什么呢？最开始的样，最高的着也么呢？选举最点开始别差不多，别高差不多啊。这些，对吧？没叫电视，但到现在电视什么怎么写说起？让我呢想到了说比人比给他这些，人绿马达呢，绿马达呢，身兼毛病端的主笔个把钱么月个把切与切，原来了说好像没劲啦，说叫了好像没劲啦说的，那对吧的，你再记得是对吧？可是。没劲垃圾，说起来落下来，真的这啥嘞？这觉得写不多，没劲垃圾落下去的，说就说，说就说人了，妈的人当中了那边年学写的书比写的好那呢，这些这样让你人了人吧没下我，我别管那人都没人按了得去做着，送吧的这些，没下我是对吧？
So now here, when from your perspective, you're free of the hindrance to generosity, stinginess, etc. And from others' perspective, there is a greater purpose of accomplishing the aim of many living beings. If you do not give away your body, then you not give away your limbs, etc. Even if asked.
但对了，让你了，相当于给他强壮的，让你如果相当这样今里面眼去瞧完那样，我眼去想说呢，甚至买不进啊，那甚至有点么主头个呢，你让人拉了说吧的，这样的这个嘛的送的啊，懂不的？
So what it says now, when from your perspective, you are free of hindrance of generosity, which is the stinginess and etc. And from others' perspective, there is a great purpose of accomplishing the aim of many living beings. If you do not give away your body, then you do not give away your limbs, etc. Even if asked. So if you think that you're able to use for your body and your life and so forth for the greater purpose, then even when someone asks for your body and so forth, then it is better not to give away.
对，但你把这个贴了的话呢，你让些讲那个绿的说了说吧，绿比写的，那这些这样嘛，这说的，但俺说嘛说呢，就按那这样嘛，这说的记住啊。
So then if you are asked for your body, etc., for the purpose of engaging in wrongdoing, such as killing and so forth, what will harm you, that will harm yourself and others, do not give yourself away to another, even temporarily.
对，这些咱们大宋把这里的，我别管那些都没人玩，送的，对这里叫他的电浪比，甚至就多长比300，养了说吧，我呢没现的，电你了，么的得到你了，那比小了，你把当生出吧那就，我呢，我呢没现的，得到呢。 상바 타바네 뭐 마인지 라드 사운드 세비 쇼로 대다게 마지나 레 안에 마지나 동안 매바 마제 지나 동안 조로 손도 안 다마도 비 까네와 티티치 렌세지야.
So the next is that inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of the one who asks for something. do not give your limbs, etc. When demonic deities or being possessed by them ask for them with the intention of inflicting harm, because it will hurt them. Do not give when asked by a mad person or by those whose minds are disturbed because they are not sincerely asking, and their request is not well considered. Not only this, there are no transgression in not giving to these beings. If you give, there is a transgression. It says.
동보 데라 초 지데 비하라 소버 데다게 나제 다 차도 데잖아 네 코메보 된다라 네 샹바다 제이 다니 데다 홍용데 양한데 자와다 다니 용하게 네 가사 아니 자기 리소 아니 홍게트는 요구도 제이 다니 제지 샹추 샘바 데다라 뒤지 리지 데서게 차도 데 제센데잖아 네 코메보제 타실라.
So therefore, it says it may happen, since the bodhisattvas are actually empowered, it is empowered by their compassion, and they're actually they are the embodiment of the compassion. So therefore, there are many the demonic deities who may take advantage of asking such things from the bodhisattvas, having the ill will or the negative intention of inflicting harm upon the bodhisattva's body and so forth. If this is when this in such situations, and one should understand very carefully and should not engage in practice of giving.
Lam Chenmo Abong Rinpoche Chenmo Zene Dendri Dawa Chenmo Jene Pigget and Jensen Dandala Mebozum to Inish Dendri Jenda Ngane Nipi Chera Shanju Samba de Lun Joda Nico Nagre Sene Mushu Juson Colin Jensen Jimatu and Tashi Jen May Bicola and Shanju Samba de Solo. You must Sanja Shiju Bicola and Digital Tocumba Roges and the Swata Sanja Shiju Bicola, the Kosugi Nashuba de Atai, Tuguamaro, Tendriki and Jensen.
So, it happens, sometimes, out of jealousy and also out of pride and so forth. And those, someone who will have such, negative intention of inflicting a harm upon the great beings, the masters, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It happens during the Buddha's time as well, because they are unable to actually, compete themselves with the Buddha's realizations, but the individuals, out of their negative thoughts and intentions, they take advantages of asking such limb and the part of bodies from those Buddhist Bodhisattvas and Buddhas and so on. So it happens. So therefore, if this is the case, then we should not actually, engage in the practice of giving.
The Shanchu Samba Lu the Tan and Jigama Sermadoyan, Natsuki Koa Lobalan, and Shanchu Samba the Yomba the Leni, Baton Chogomare, and Rikachamara. The Shomba, Tendrikin Yomba, the Centring and Tendrella, the Shanchu Samba, Kuli Tanroji, and the Lapatero, Jimmy Jero Chilasona, Nanguegi, Chatin the Sangmarwa. The Matutanda, the Ludon may Lonshoda, not that the say won't do. Madoyan de Coa, the Taran lesson, Shanchu Samba Nijid, Centring and the Yomba the La Seva Mirason, Jigoro, Mr. Remadua.
Here, we must not misunderstood. It is by saying that, we find here in this particular, paragraph by saying that do not give when asked by a mad person or by those whose mind are actually disturbed because they are not sincerely asking. So you should not misunderstood by saying that you should not have a compassion for those beings. This is not what we were suggesting here. We should not give away your positions or your belongings, such as material gifts and so on and so forth. You should not give away what is what is different from us giving away to those beings is if they ask our limbs and part of one's body and so on and so forth, and you should not give away because they're not sure what they are asking. You know, they are mentally disturbed and their mind is not in proper condition.
다 동보들 다니라 그런 동보기 된저기 라 참바다 저기 무슨 와이나 그러나 디바슈 첨바 사그래 니들 셈바라 도바 장제 세비 셔르세디 셈바 탕탕 메바 장제 홍그레마도 강에데 세비 단달 홍바케 마로 니가.
So all of this, you know, actually both of these two may ask you for some gift out of, you know, negative motivations, you know, one who is asking, the first one is asking for the gift, you know, just to inflict harm upon you due to their, you know, pride and jealousies. And then others who is asking you for your limbs and so forth, because they don't even know what they're asking. You know, their mind is not in a sound, you know, and their mind is not in a proper condition. So not only that giving this to them will not have benefit, but it will transgress. It says there is a transgression. Not only that you do not have benefit, but you will have a transgression. Take break to 10 minutes.
Karsa jena tongan joroche teda mato because lulon la jimba shade deyang yala la soba sene ten de jimba tang jenji chöden jo mbadrubi shir chen don do so nega on sha jimba ni so sondo.
So on an occasion other than this, you should give away your body when it is asked for. Furthermore, there are two ways to give away your body. Sectioning out your limbs and so forth, and then making a permanent gift. And the second, giving yourself over temporarily into someone else's power as a servant, etc., in order to bring about their religious aim.
다 단지에 강에 다 뒤죽거네 고비거네 아니 뭐네 대송래 셴바게 아니 소송거네 차전 장바 아니 딘지지 거선인 소나 아니 그 양변의 양라로 소바데 제바 양나 지 소소게 전에 추den게 샤와데도 아니 소소 요보다 딘지게 내가 셴바 강잖아요 아니 이거를 송도.
So if someone who is asking sincerely and someone who is really out, if you know that somebody's sincerity of asking a gift from yourself, and then at the same time, if you know that you are on the level of engaging in such an act of giving, then you should do so.
네, 대중가서 라마체바는 수마나 이래. 아니 매나 매기나로 아니 개발로 수바 내가나야 준주를 좋아하면 준주하게 패통에 질러서이나 아니 다지 니지 영수做버세에 차우로 준주기 네봐. 디거라 아니 지 오늘 장진이가 차제 상에 지차로로 홍보를 해서나.
So here, you know, it is very important for us to understand the level of your practice. Where is the level of your practices? Understanding of level of your practice is very important. As we find in the Guru Puja, that's abbreviate the stages of the path, or the Jingsho Dampa, where it stated that Mena Kepa gets the neighbor counts. even if you have to stay in the hell realms, in a burning flame, you would do so. You would do so in order to, in order to perfect your perseverance, joyous perseverance. So therefore, here now, when someone asks, when you come across with such situations, it is very, very important for one to understand the level of one's practice.
Sense of the Shanchu Sambato, the Temela Sague, Masu Jesse Shobal Roy, and go to Imbicola, and then Jesse Shobal Romatune, and then Ma Nirangilana Sade, Jesse Shobal Romatune Sadora, the Ray Gaja Sigro, Junjudan, Hiji, Tau de Malepa, Jawaina.
So therefore, it is very important to have a strong support of one's practice of bodhisattva's deeds, bodhisattva practice, such as giving and so forth, the support of the great compassion and joyous perseverance is really needed as a support, because we find in the text by saying that the bodhisattvas of the Chittamatra, the Chittamatra and bodhisattvas were, although they are once they are on the path, on the bodhisattva's path, but then they, for some reason, they fall back to the lesser vehicle path. It is due to not being able to follow the practice of bodhisattvas properly. So they fall back to the lesser vehicle path.
단단한 것을 뽑아도 가르치는 상추 선비 파저의 심바 두니 진비 파션의 상추 선바도서 가르로 오여나세 뒤걸은 속에 단단한 속에 rollin도 제거하러 소소 장라 칼로도 대다 연구 말해서 이게 자체된 속에 제 투여 걸어야 말아 강 somba 되니라 아니 다 면랑 선책이 전에 던르게 준리라 컴플레트 동토에 이라니 주당 되러 마도 단단 간저 라기 카터 될 때는 디존의 somba나게 제가 나속에 처바 제투야지 되어 말아.
So that at the moment that we're actually discussing on how the bodhisattvas actually engage in those practices of giving. Suddenly that we do not have such level, we have not reached such level to engage in such practice. Yet at the same time, we're actually hoping and putting an effort to develop such a realizations as the great bodhisattvas has realized, and trying our best to be able to engage in such practice, follow the practice of the bodhisattvas.
당주 선배기 류론식 계속도 제가 신을 신바동을 소수기 잘라대 신을 집이 천나대요 말이에요. 코로나기 잘라도 코로나를 배제동하기 천나지. 여름에도 나서이나 잘 신을 제세디 당진지기 손에 아니 마 제세 인자 저와디지 다쇼 선바는 예바도 다로도 상주 선발이요 말이 또하는 거는 코로나기 배제동한테 또하는 데비고네. 코로나데 배제동비 천나대요.
So because for the bodhisattvas, even when they have to give away their own limbs, in other words, that we find in the text where it says, suctioning out their own limbs and so forth to give away someone whom they asked, they will have no regret at all. They will have no sense of miserliness or stinginess, or even a slight feeling of that limb which belongs to him or herself. The bodhisattvas will have no attachment at all. It is as if that they're just, even though they are giving their limbs to others, but as if there's similar feeling of what they are using, something that belongs to themselves. Yeah, they're using for himself or herself. This is the only feeling that bodhisattvas will have. But for us, it's not going to happen, let alone that we can give away our limbs and so forth. Even our belongings, our resources, if we give away, it is due to our strong fixating way of looking at our things and our belongings. We always have some kind of, even though we may engage in such kind of giving, our practice of giving would be tinge with attachment and so on.
당가족이 자찬데 간접제 투고르서나 먼저 탐해보기 지지 차생원이 파쇼될 저와제 생에게 딘드기 저와지 자체자 수천부 영해지에 랑기 류롱셔 견소대 제바 피게들 제라 천사법자지 명예 데 이제 탐해발은도아 다 대래 저와 장제 동지 지청이 제게 아니 류롱셔 견소대 제바 간접제 배조 동을 세윤이 대성가 수디쇼론도 두 자체제 두고도
So we can at least, we'll able to have some kind of hope. We can at least, determine ourselves, a certain level of percentage that you'll be able to do this in the future as the continual practice, as the following of the continual practice of the bodhisattvas, because but other than that, at the moment, we do not have such, we have not actually we do not possess the fully developed, joyous perseverance and so on. So we will not be able to give away as the bodhisattvas are actually giving away.
다 되게 나이 영어부 또 맞생이 돼서 다시 영어부 또 시 영어부만 또 제가 셔봐네 그래서 셔봐라 니제 시 영어부만 또 수당 시 영어부 또 비출로 동보라 나래 손 뒤죽어내 메롱안에 아지나 집어서
So the detailed explanation about outer things which are not to be given. This section has two parts: how not to give outer things, how to give outer things, how to give outer things, how to give outer things has 5 parts.
나래 뒤죽어내 메롱안에 제 빼나서 라주다 년에 제나 시지 카제 되어 따보 진시 유죽어내 메롱안에 손
So now the viewpoint of time, the first viewpoint of time, the inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time is inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time is, for instance, giving an afternoon meal to the renunciates or those who have taken a one-day vow.
다 진시 유죽어내 메롱안에 미세 저기 저거 쳐가면도 진시 유죽어내 메롱안에 손도 동세제라 세공 라마티와 라마조바 때와 당세 샹진당 신하당 주바당 차나게 바신 거비 자동 때와 당 고종당 샤메자신 청민통와 당 대다라 자동 시반 뇌장 대다라 롱슈 미루이 담바다 덴발라 고발라 소바당 대다게 바바 때와 당 동안의 레바 다트지 가원지장 민자와다 내진 심보 알레텔 뭐부친데 되고 이게 뒤가는 봤선다 고고츠 고종로서 버때와 당 생기도 고종의 샤민자시 청민도바 대다라 동안 대장 대다라 로시 미로비 담바단 덴발라 고발라 소바 대다 바바 때와 당 손도 대바데 칠로르지
No, that's all. Now, inappropriate, the second inappropriate here is inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of gift. It is inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of gift is, for instance, giving leftover food and drink to one observing vows, giving food and drink contaminated and polluted by feces and urines, spittle and mucus, or vomit or pus, giving garlic, onion, meat, alcohol, or something tainted by this to those who do not eat, drink these things, or who have a vow for which it is inappropriate to use these things, even though they might want to eat or drink, giving away child, servant, and the like. Even if you clearly convey the significance of the giving and they are pleased with it, when requested someone you dislike.
되지. 되게 가자다 하고도 가서 바로 보되게 머롱아니 바 강시지라 아니 라니게 때달라 때 머롱아 시시병원에 때와이나 아니 때 유주관에 때 머롱아 되래도.
So this is the gift that what you are giving should not be given to others. Very clear, right? Something that is inappropriate, something that you think that yourself is, that is inappropriate to utilize and inappropriate to use it. By knowing that, you should not give such things to others.
되거는 것은 년에당 로중송도 로주도 년에당 가서 대제소제 남바서 다달년사데 아니미 고데 최선이 최선 동bol을 지저웨나 디제라니 시리 카제테소나 디주고니 때문으로 되는데 때나 예바된 용으로.
So regarding the inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time, so you should not give away, you should not give the foods and so forth, or foods and drink to someone who is actually observing the one-day vows, or the monast who is actually, observing the novice and fully ordained vows, and after night, in afternoon.
당가 좀 된저 지당이나 데려와 당가 지당이나 대소 뭐뭐 계절 용대 데려와 아니 다 라중 계절에 라중도 샤산은 저기 말해서 네 고바도서 용 카시노로 고바도 님이 좀 쉬우소야도 아니 된저기 채널에 다 가제 간사라니 이게 파르보되게 될라 아니 지 나와서네 파르보되게 네 시즌버지를 잖아도 다 간제 가르치는 정서 당샤와이나 네 걸라마고 이거 예바사 쇼베서로.
So it is always have a proper understanding of what is appropriate to be given, what is to be given to others that is appropriate. That is very, very important. Without having such consideration, also whatever it may be, I'm just going to give away, whether it is appropriate or not inappropriate. So this is not how this is not a beneficial for us. It will not become a practice of generosity either.
다 동안을 레파 다트진사 가원제장 민자와다 뇌제도 심보던 자슈진 네 자슈진 네방 셰바 메제바 제게바 나제 홍아레 홍아라 버당 레 텔라소바 대와 당사 아니 자동 메트베데 최장 최메심바 홍이 네발라 대다 대와 당原将세바切心 장외 카세 사바 수발 홍아 라 대다 대와 당 미티젠 제와 당 소내한테 뭔가 쉬우진도 양도 미티제세 디바데 진로를 지다 미티젠 레본데 세데 라체베제 레본데 뭐 쉬우도 되와
미티젠 랭가서
어데 대바드 미티제세 되고나 받자.
So here, now let's read through this. First, giving away a child servant, and like even if you clearly convey the significance of the giving, and they are pleased with it, when you are when requested by someone who someone you dislike, a yaksha or the rakshasa, or someone overcome by belligerence, and someone who is ungrateful, or some forgetful, or when approached by a sick person, you ask for a food and drink, giving unwholesome foods and drink, and even giving wholesome food without wholesome food without moderations, and giving tasty food when asked for it by a extremely greedy people who are already satiated.
당가서 되는 요거로 가서 된저 재미 변한 Better bomb than a chuma than the Java Yuri, any G. Mason and Naham Pay that you're Chayo than the Yobot and the Java than Yuri. The Sola G. Paraboy Jessa Deni, ye Netan del Tago, the Pekach Moredo. Better Yobo Chas on about Jenna. There's on the shares on about better Yobo. I am talking about the Tondros and the Chief and Jig Marima. Better in decision. Any country, any Chumayana or Chayo Yobotana, the child, the certain and Jig, not in a ten and Jigmendua.
So here now, whenever we give away something, it's as mentioned here, such as, if you give even your one's own, relatives or one's, brothers and one's siblings and so forth, to serve someone, as sending away someone as their, servant and so forth. And you have to be very careful with that. You should know the situation of others and the intention of the others and the purpose of why they are asking for such, help and so forth. So without such understanding, if you give away, then that's also not appropriate.
Hale the double young year. Yang Shojina Shena go detaining Roton Shoji Shana, digging immediate young Chiredo.
So this happened, this happened even in Tibet, a long time ago. There are many who are actually, enslaved by the wealthy people, and they exploit. The exploitation was quite strong in Tibet long time ago, and even someone who is actually going to other families' home as a, as a bride, someone who go there as a bride, but then such a individual is really enslaved, completely treated as a slave rather than part of their family. So that is very, very important,
Satung Metropole, Satung de Jena, Konogisana, Yang Chu Museum Sanding in their color, Masutresana, this is a Yemi, Langachiredo.
So it is always, when engaging in giving requires a lot of, appropriate, you really think about the appropriateness of time, appropriateness of what is being gift, what is that gift that is given to the individual and so forth. Because if there are people who are actually asked for a food, even though they don't need it, but they ask out of their greed. They ask the food and they keep eating and something then that will make them sick and so forth. And those are all not an appropriate way of giving.
And then how long just been a color, but how long you don't want to say color to go Jatana, Tanta Saba, the Saba Kusha learning in the Maro to New. This is a training Jigmedua.
There are many, people who are extremely greedy, even though they are completely, they themselves are, completely satisfied and they are stuffed by all those foods and drinks, but they still keep asking for more. So this is also not right. So you should not give a gift to such individual.
Take it, don't show take Yashon and Kesha Yundi, and then I took a teaching shade, Chetan de Ten.
So this also, talks, it also talks about the talks which related to their, health as well. Because if you keep eating and so on and so forth, it is concerning for your health. Right? Not good for your health. and giving scriptures to non-Buddhist philosophers who have commercial interests, are seeking points of criticism, or do not want to learn the meaning of scripture.
당가 랭가 추어서 디 난게 추어서 그래. 배나 가서 배나 비타올 강에 명이나 남비게 아니 나 데야로치 닝게 따게 인설라나 그게 미데 아니 남바들 노트 쇼여 바지 난콘은 겐데 땅에 되다. 아니 파셔들 저버저 된다라. 아니 포트들 레번데 제로치잖아. 아니 지금 말해서 도.
So here now it's who have a commercial interest and also seeking points of criticism, and for them you should not give away you should not give away our scriptures to someone who is seeking a criticism, because having an intention of it is a negative intention of finding some contradiction in the scriptures and trying their best to follow the teachings of the Buddha Dhamma. So particularly if you have a text in a scripture, the text, one should not have a consideration of such text as something that is a material belonging to yourself. You should not consider this as your wealth, or you should not have an idea of, in other words, you should not have a commercial interest in such text.
라보도 추포데도 배치 저기 대시 장은 가서 비비노라 배치 싫어고만요. 배치 뉴뉴레 라보도 계속 렌타체 모였나다 나가마인의 세디들이요. 세디들이나 존의 렌타체를 세디 디게체도 배 뉴뉴레 딱 그도 최대의 리스트부터 세대요. 저기 대시잖아요. 배치 동생 뭐 여름아도 손포테이르도 저기 대시장인데 배치 배발로 배치요.
Although there may not be much or probably not someone who actually consider as a wealth, for their scriptures, the texts and so forth in the Tibetan community, even though there are some very old texts that are written by gold, the gold written texts, even they belong to that, but they are belonging such precious texts, but they do not really look at those as their belongings or there's something that is, look at them as a wealth. But what is danger here is if you have some statues that is made out of, the precious material, properties such as made out of gold and so on and so forth, stupas and statues, then you may have such attachment, considering this as your wealth and so forth.
샹사 대다 손반데 제바 샹시 넘버 10라 베비 디올레 종아젠데 리바 샤데 되게 돼요 손도.
So this is how the Bodhisattva's level presented in presents it. Understand in the more detail from the Bodhisattva's level, compendium of determinations.
샹사데 파고 통해서 와.
나오게나 나스름지.
파고 통해서. 네, 나리 제목이 단단가도 슈비쇼데 먼저데 샹사데 두고도 샹사 제바 쇼유지여서로.
맞죠.
샹사레 되게 돼요. 지게 돼서. 게때 추질레본 디스 다 단지 되게 가서 라이바 아니 리피트 잡된라 시제 정론사라 그래 가서 캐바도 쓰기. 아니 리파게 체미자된 아니 디젤랑 연주 시제게노 야나 산제게 송 야나 아니 자가 펜주게 돈도슬레디 아니 템보슈가 된 가서 시에거로 이 시제게 콘도사 논데.
So here you find in this Lam Rim text whenever the detailed explanations and then the points that has been completed, then you will find the supporting the valid reasoning followed by the scriptural, quotations. So, that's all.
지켜도서 개대 취지 레본 디심비 호모와 시비 시럽지 나라 짐바시나 카나마토와다 제반 조로 대달라 짐비를 이제달라 호마시나야 카나마토와 조로 개대 다긴데 추소모는 진도 슈바 당 묘바샤니 소냐바 대답 코니 세지 짐바 시나네 카나마토와 메토소
So where it says, if you give a fully written Buddhist text to person of childish intelligence who asks for it, you incur misdeeds. If you ask others for it, for it to give to them, you also incur a misdeeds. If you give it thoroughly within thinking that you can cause them to become interested into or to embrace the profound teachings, you do not incur misdeeds.
예 가서라 봐 칸마 토와다 칸 토면도 세데 맞아 레 동보와도 녀바 이리 강사바데 베레 마도 녀 제샤여세 데 뉴뉴레 디찬에 칸야 마토와세데 다시 드네랑 고알링 소도 얘네 칸 마토와세데 녀바 미로.
So here it is translated misdeeds, the original term in Tibetan kana matoa. Kana matoa is inappropriate deeds that is done by oneself, but one is not actually, revealing to others, but just hiding hiding one's own misdeeds. That is what is meant by the, kana matoa or misdeeds.
게테 담비 추다 쭈비 레방 마사 메티젠제 땡주제 레방 라 데비 신체나라 데 신체나라 데 이게 주주나 상 주주네 상 지심발라나 도바 짐바셰다 옌레 홍데 짐바셰나 카나 마토와다 제바 조로 제 카나 마토와다 제바 조로로 마 녜로는 제시비스 그 사만 녜 토토토도라나 로 되어야서 선수
맞아. If you give a text of scripture teachings or a treatise by non-Buddhist philosophers to beings who have faith in it, after you have set to writing, or you have an already written text in your possession, or you ask for a text from others, you incur misdeeds.
네, 저렇지. 다 상추 선별 레번 디심바 라나 노바 대양 시대 상제지 송으로 이게 주슈바 다니 지장 님보 메바 코나 용스 셰바 샤시 젠달라온 레바 코나 잡아 샤오소.
So Bodhisattvas, it is the written text of the non-Buddhist philosophers that they have in their position, and have the scriptures of the Buddha written down, or they recognize that these texts are without any substances at all, and make it down to others as well, make it down to others as well, that it is better to erase them and to have the Buddha's scripture written down.
다 대소도 시야 보는 힘만 되게 뒤서가라 베데 신나게 신나게 땜박으로 줘봤어야 되는 적으로. 근데 그걸 이제 또 틀어만 된다 로다 제를 좀 가서 추봉이 내서야 돼. 년가 정보로 뒤기 된다래.
So here, this is mostly emphasized on, not engaging in misdeeds with regard to, with with regards to one's, with regards to the Dharma or with regards to religion. Because in ancient time in India, there had been many debates between Buddhists and non-Buddhists. So it is for this purpose and this particular paragraph is emphasized.
리지기 고아들려는 영 아소데 슈 인세데 냐나 파톤저 제 조금 말해서 버트 출루 연제 시행하서 된지 계속 말해.
So it should not be misunderstood, thinking that we are really talking about religious discriminations here.
용스 시바샤 이제 코나이나 다가랑 제시 송도아 소소게지 다 대소 정원은 제가 된 이제 미지 출루들 쉬우 먹고 이제 라니게 따제제비도는 저부 영이지나 라니게 때라 최도 만제비도는 니 상주선의 돈도 가르강에나 니 강주세야 돼 근데지 그 용다진의 여들어.
So now we know that even if someone who would really like to engage in the practice that is found in any other religion, something that you think is suitable for your temperament, you can go ahead and take it. As he's always emphasized that engaging in practice without having a religious influences, you can engage in this practice of emptiness, meditation on emptiness, and practice of bodhicitta and so forth, can be practiced without saying that I am Buddhist and so on, right?
디 다당에 존사 대화랑 레이어도 젠달을 레퍼 잡아 레퍼 코나 잡아 샤워스도 알아. 그다음에 대만은 와들 손샤와이나 코가 초기를 코초기를 계속해요 말아. 줄루베 단다스게 말아.
So it is always okay to someone to practice if this is something that they think is beneficial for them, without having the influences of religion. They can engage in the practice.
상추 선배 될런데 취지 지신 샤시 용스 되어 샤데 게데 총로 용스 롱셔버 샤워시스나 상추 선배 게데 레버데 취지 따건데 샤바시 예나네 될라 짐바 메자 린도나네 에네 린짐바 샤워스.
If someone asks you about bodhisattvas, so if someone asks you a bodhisattvas for a stack of black paper prepared for a text, you should inquire. What are you going to do with it? If the reply is, I'm going to use it for commercial purpose, and then stack of black paper in one that you are actually preparing for religious purpose, do not give it.
게데 림면도나 니가 마지장 카나마토와 메도 어송도.
If you have the monetary equivalent of the stack of the black pepper, give this to the person. You will give this to the person. Yeah.
게데 취지 된도 따가 셔바 많이 나네. 진해장 게다 대화 용수 롱셔바 샤이시르 레번 데니 짐바 샤오 송도.
So if you do not have the monetary equivalent to the pepper and can give neither money nor pepper, you still do not incur misdeeds. If you are not preparing the stack of black pepper for a religious purpose, by all means give it away so that it will be joyfully put to use.
다 데로 총도 땅다 도거기 된다 면이나 대화 연수 주비 제대나 레버 되니 신쇼 송도아.
So if it is not for the commercial purpose, then you should give away. If it is the purpose of their joyfulness and happiness and so forth, then you should give away.
대신에 개대 좀 신도 년바 주반 되비 싫어하나 마진자 카나마토와 매도 용신도 년바 주반 되발라 제타와진데 용제 주원 되발라 대신 노 용치바도 파바 주원 되비 싫어하나 마진나 카나마토와 매 카나마토와다 제바리바 샤오 셰소 송
So similarly, you do not incur mistakes for not giving it when the request derives from a desire to transcribe a really vile book. It is the same case for someone who wants to transcribe a middling kind of books. But be aware that you do incur a mistake by not meeting a request made by one who wants to transcribe an exalted text. So because if one engages in the mistake with relation to the religious texts, scriptures, and so forth, it's a very heavy negative deeds. We accumulate a tremendous amount of negative deeds. So therefore, these explanations actually help us to really prevent ourselves from engaging in such misdeeds.
다 땡주고는 심으로와서 될은 단지 동부들 소문도 될간도 땡주고는 심으로와네서 라니 레번 주고버 두 심바 메텔라 세니 좀아요 메비 세 셰반되나 노알라 레번 때와 따보고 손도.
So now the inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of the person. The viewpoint of the person, where it says inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of person is, for instance, giving away a text to someone who asks for it while you have desired to understand it. You still have not achieved the purpose of the text, but are free from defilement of stinginess about it.
배는 도스를 배는 간도 고치라 아니 배 레본스는 더 자치고 지어와지 이거듯이 근데 간로게 되게 참소한테 따차와지 야나 따차면아요 나한테 저기 보대텔라 지 산나다 차선 슈체뭐 매와이나 근데 바로 보대기 tel라 로주 저기 야 제로 지라와이나 근데 쟤는 되게 예송도와.
So here now what it says is now if you have a very sublime text or the scriptural text or something that is very precious text, you have already gone through and studying and you have understood the meanings and so forth. Or you may not have understood very clearly, or you may have not completed studying this text as well. You may have not actually studied either. But still, if you do not have an attachment towards this, and when someone asks for such text, then you should give away.
데 가산 데 젠데 메롱이 젠세네 소도 다들 심바 젠소아 데 젠데 메롱아라고 젠세 가르선 추지 심바 데타부 심바네 고바송 간우 두비 시이나 니 마지나 고바시마니 하예지 젠발라 타보메비 셰당 고바 동보 두메 고비 셰데 데 데타 랑라 세니 투마메바 알레 셰데에세 데바도 질로 데다 오늘
So it says why this is inappropriate giving is as follows. Generosity such as giving of the teachings is for the sake of any of three purposes: removal of your stinginess, completion of your vast collection of sublime wisdom, and fulfilling the vast aims of others. So if you do not give those texts, later two purposes remain available to you, whereas if you do give it, they are not available to you.
There the go to go pass on singing the go pass on Teresa. Senango ba. Any Yeshi Zozo ba. And the Jachambu Juba, somebody go pass on Teresa.
So those are the
Senango ba.
three purposes. We will repeat once again the three purposes. Why this is inappropriate giving as follows. Generosity such as this giving of the teaching is for the sake of any of three purposes. The first purpose is the removal of your stinginess. Second purpose is the completion of your vast collection of sublime wisdom. And the third is fulfilling the vast aims of others.
That go but there's some what the do go but the somebody drag it, Chachan Masana, then you're going to tell Rungumundu. There some the song, then you're going to tell and you do.
So if it is if it fulfill those three criteria, and then it is appropriate to give from the viewpoint of person. If it doesn't fulfill the criteria of the three, then it is inappropriate to give from the viewpoint of person.
This the Manoto Momodu, San Malosha, Terry de Jasha, then you're going to say it. And it's something I need in my. There's the Sonny, there's Joe's lot and Russia. Dima, the Jordan, shall you send a chicken, Yana, and let on boy, so get son of the tone of the Hijab in Betty, poor Tugumani, Kutugumani.
So, tell this shagging soon, I'm better.
Dear Jagin. Garasana, dear Sonny, there's what there's Joe's locus ladder. The Garasana, the Shanchu Semi Yana and I'll go on the Sekiamada. The Shanchu Samba, but Jenny. 시자시로 내가 추신하스는 땅와 나게 찬송을 넣는 신 팽에 되죠로 나중에 타리 뭐지만 다 되는 말도 말안에스게면 또 비거라 아니 제대로 차마 또 소리지도.
So we'll stop here with this today, and then next we will go we will continue from the next. We'll continue this text in our next the teachings, the next session next week. So here now, these are all we are really discussing on the practice of the bodhisattvas, something which is pretty far from us, which is kind of quite distant from us, because when you look at and go through those texts, and for us, we should always have a hope and have a genuine wish to engage in such practice. However, at this point, we as an ordinary practitioners or the initial practitioners, we are unable to engage in such practice as it described, as it finds in this text. So, however, it is also really a fortune for all of us to be able to go through this, the discussions on the Bodhisattva's practice.
최선이다. 아니 뒤송도 사베 교환은 쇼지도 담에 털네. 아니 상추 신주 영원시 버제서는 이게 아니 상추 선비 이동이 쇼바라. 로네 라지 선제 탄제도 조비 상제제 고번 영원에도 더 이제는 샤가이 아니 샤네 번데는 쇼베 내가 뭐 선제는 이제 신조로도 소잖아요. 아니가 나온다.
So let's dedicate our minutes by means of spending 2 hours discussing on this on the teachings. May all these merits, including the merits that I have accumulated from merits of the 3 times, and may all of this become a cause for the practice of the bodhisattvas, the deeds of the bodhisattvas, which are, the mind captivating practice of the bodhisattvas, where it says, may all this become a, establishment of all other sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, and may all this become a fruitful for all sentient beings.
Dogen Jinin Sabin Gewan De Dong Zhuwa Kyun Gongben Dang Chebo Juzun Lo Sang Zhabo Yin Ningbo Rin Zhe Zhu Sa Ji Min Du Zhang Zhe Zhou Ni Ji Nin De Jianbo De Sang Jie Jin Du Min De Bei Wo Yi 若愿能到心能学佛主，结往更多养道那么，人民确实能学习，咋能能这年代少做呢？多结常跟国有说也当古着，明着那个能养道有。天天人都觉得中年。 卡扬巴卡西巴的，罗密马里给龙着瓦那，南真教育我不到九级，两马顺便才到更多样，两边杨戬才别接送的，点别人把更上南接触，年年周边接到你携手，让给之前都别浪接的。 修长自问长月头边见，若月月者明报谁先呢？教育担保有人真就见，担保人间就别莫交保，乔家娘把就别说的呢。 你就七个一绕就把一，面对是我写不熟，世间教育民众真的来，列住上就能就人别长，的能就一能别的心，教育怎么人都终究见。 朗诵主编听见主写经，阅经世界莫当明明根，才到更多教育广播业，朗当这我没有见，刚才贴吧出了90九，最近出了中报点边菜，图点那就大多主写经。 抓起将此手，绕就近，就在那面过来绕得近。那个城内手就接不弄，路上点别正面扫送去，落叶面色大多年就近。广州的过夜新工作，别当电话忙的就业。 现任任务定在交作业，交别身体活动定就节，交别抱怨接到钱包，更多上报电样接见的，接到个技术道路去，给我的大堂街绕多么。 就说西边讲，东街街，我可能出多我不的，那些个月早我就给讲，从不学习绕多我就，哎呀，对不起，天就。